Hey everybody, I'm Eric Johnson. I'm the Executive Vice President of Engineering here at GitLab, and this is October 27th, 2020's Engineering Key Review. We're going to be looking at OKRs and metrics. So hopefully everybody's got the agenda open. I think it starts at number 3. Christy, SUS update?
Yes, so we have we have an OKR in place that is focused on usability. We have 3 KRs that are clearly defined and one that we are still defining with the intent to move SUS up. So settings and navigation are now owned by the static site editor group. We have a KR on settings improvements and then also validation work to make sure that the changes we're making are effective. We're also going to update our SUS methodology. So historically, we have used First Look, which is a volunteer group of about 3,000 GitLab users to run our SUS survey on a quarterly basis. That was about 50% SaaS and about 50% self-managed respondents. And it's a relatively small pool of people. We're going to keep running the survey with that same group, but in parallel, we're going to start running it with participants that we source from our data warehouse with the goal of focusing on SaaS users. What we have realized is that by having 50% of the respondents being self-managed, they are likely not seeing a lot of the changes that we are making for many months after we make them. And so we feel like it's just, we want to make this less of a lagging indicator. And we think that this is a way to do it. The reason we're running them in parallel is we want to see what the difference is. We also want to make sure that we have historical data. We never have a gap where we don't have historical data. And we also want to see what the new baseline looks at so we can do an analysis on that and make sure that we understand what the difference is according to the new participant base. And then our UX research team is going to spend the quarter focusing on determining the top 10 usability problems. And Anoop and I have had a lot of conversations about this that will feed into a Q1 OKR so that we can start to address some of those. Eric, do you want to vocalize your question?
Yeah, just a heads up to some people about the mechanics of changing system usability score. So we're going to change our accounting method. That means we're going to potentially invalidate the current SUS time series. So what we agreed to do with Anoop was basically keep SUS the way it is. In parallel, have something called GitLab usability score, which is the sort of modified SUS that Christy just described. And then once we feel confident that it is measuring the right thing and it does have less lag, deprecate the old SUS and convert Gus to the new SUS. And so if that makes sense to everybody from an approach perspective, just a heads up, you're going to see an addition and then a name change back. But I think we're doing the right thing, assuming it all goes to plan.
That's right.
And then I've got bullet C as well, which is Anoop isn't here in the participants. So in concert with all this, product agreed to take on a KR to prioritize 50 usability issues this quarter. But we don't quite have like the label taxonomy or a board to do the accounting for this. So also there's going to be some work to improve that. And then by November, if this 50 target needs to change, it'll change and it will link to something where it's very clear what's being done and what's not. But rather than starting the quarter with, do X, we decided just make it 50. If we improve it at a later date and communicate that transparently.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's the KR that I mentioned at the beginning is the one that's not fully defined yet. What I can say is that we've made progress on the label. We are going to use the feature enhancement label to target this, which had always been the plan. What we realized is that feature enhancement was being used incorrectly. So QE is helping us basically set from 0 on that. We're going to blow that label away on the existing issues because it's not being used accurately. And we're going to start using that as the official accounting method. Anoop and I are working on a communication to the engineering and product teams to make sure that everybody understands this is how we intend for you to use this. And then yes, Anoop is also going back and making sure that that 50 number is accurate. And then he's also talking to the PMs about how are we going to determine which 50 things to target.
All right, Christopher, number 4.
Yes, we had a request from last time, so this is a follow-up to get LCP in place. So before we just had the Grafana links to that, we've actually now have it flowing from the tooling into Sisense and are now reporting them from the pages. Right now, we only have one page up on the performance indicators page. If anybody has any feedback on whether this should be, we should list these all under development page, or should we have a separate page open to that? Because we have 5 additional ones that we're measuring as part of our OKRs for Q3, and then we'll be expanding those in Q4 to additional ones that product designates as being important pages to have timing below 2.5 seconds. Craig?
Yeah, so that it was pretty awesome. Like the 5 charts that I saw in Sisense, and by my view is you should probably not on the KPI page, but find another page where you share this, because I think it's really cool and really great to be transparent on this. And thanks for thanks for clarifying that this is SaaS only. So Sid is the next point.
Yeah, it's a great metric, the LCP P90. It's surprising to me we're below it, because that's a great result. So now I'm like, hey, are we tracking the average here or the 90th percentile?
So my understanding is it's the 90th percentile, but I'll go back and double check with the team, because I think that's good for thoroughness. That's my understanding from that perspective.
Cool, that's awesome. Great news, and congrats on that, Christopher.
Yeah, just an update from just a Q4 update on OKRs. I know it's early, but I figured I'd get it out there. So far, we've asked for a volunteer, and we've been struggling to find one. We had 2 engineers expressed interest, but they thought it was a short-term versus a quarterly commitment, and they both declined. We're going more aggressively, having EMs talk both to their teams as well as targeting staff individually to consider volunteering for this, but have struggled with this, and that's just an FYI.
Sorry, and can you elaborate on the short-term versus long-term?
They thought they were just helping out to get it set up like in 5 minutes, like a half a week kind of commitment versus quarter.
It's a 3-month commitment. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like, like, hey, we need help over here. Oh yeah, we're willing to help. Oh wait, no, you mean full time. Oh wait, okay, hold on, that's different thinking there from their perspective. So.
Cool, thanks for that.
Enthusiastic to help out even in a jam though, from that perspective.
Cool. Yeah, maybe we need to assign a volunteer. Let's see. And that was a joke. Mac.
Yes, thank you. So this is fulfilling the promise from last time. A follow-up on improving measuring how the time to close of high severity bugs. The previous measurement packed too many things into one indicator, and that's my fault. I'll take responsibility for that. After looking at it, to set up teams for success, we likely need 3 separate indicators to encourage the behavior we need to see. And the first KPI has already shipped. We're measuring mean time to resolve or mean time to close. That's how fast we are to fix the bugs. And we're doing okay here. We've been under the target of 30 days for S1 and 60 days for S2 for a period of time now. And there are 2 more RPIs coming, which is backlog. That's how many bugs we have left. And to improve that, we need prioritization. We work with product. And bugs that are not severitized. So these are the unknown unknowns. So if it is high, quality will lead the triaging of these bugs. So 3 indicators, 3 behaviors. And currently each teams are doing well. I think we're under the target so far. Craig?
Yeah,
awesome.
Congrats.
Great work, Mac.
Yeah, it's really good. Like usually I like charts going up and to the right, but when it comes down to how fast you can close bugs, down and to the right is totally acceptable. And it looks really good. I just asked a clarifying question to make sure that there's no bias in the data in the more recent period. So if you're pivoting on but when the bugs close, then there is no bias. But if you're doing it when the bugs open, then there would be bias. So I just wanted to triple check that we can celebrate.
It's when it's closed, and I have the data wizard team in the call, and Kyle, you want to confirm that? So
yeah, it's actually charted when the bug is open. So the timescale is bug open is what Craig is what you're saying is to switch it to when it's closed. We can do that pretty easily.
Yeah, I think that would take the bias, because what would happen is if the bug's open, and let's say that you have a really tough one that takes a really long time, that doesn't show up yet. So as a result, the data looks a little bit better in the more recent periods. So I would pivot it that
It
way.
should be open date, not close date.
Okay, I'll take responsibility on that. Sorry, I'm still catching up, and we'll fix that. And we can also rename this to mean time to close to make it even clear as well. Eric, you have a point there?
Yeah, no, I know Craig was sort of being jokey about the graphs going up to the right, but it is a real thing where when you're switching context, looking at so many KPIs, it's helpful if they all have the same mental model. So we can and should actually consider adding a negative sign to the numbers, and tracking up to 0, or so that they all kind of all the charts kind of flow the same way. Because we do at this point have probably close to 100 key and regular performance indicators, and so if we're lowering the mental overhead, might make it that much easier.
I know I was being tongue in cheek. I think it's okay if some of them are like that, but we should just make it clear that like down at the right is good or whatever it is. Just going back to the last point, I actually was arguing that close date should be what you pivot the chart on, not open date. And the reason for that is in this case is because if you look at the current month, it'll always, if you use open date, since most of those have not been resolved yet, they'll like I said, it'll look better in the current month than it really is. I think Sid said the opposite, so I just want to reconcile that.
Yeah, this is a tough one, and it reminds me of problems in sales measuring things. It's almost like we should use, is it closed out or not, and show a percentage. But I think you always have weirdness, at least near recent months.
Yeah, the other metric I've used, and if you want to pivot on open date, Sid, the other one I've used is like resolved within 30 days or resolved within 2 days, or you pick the number, and typically those curves, get to a point where the majority of the stuff is resolved within a certain period of time, and that way you get a really good sense of how we're doing, and you can then track it over time. That's just another approach to this. So.
Yeah, that sounds great to me.
Okay. All right, so I think the decision is stick with open date, because I think that's fine. And then we should maybe, instead of average close time, we should be looking at, percent close within, I don't know how many days or how many hours or whatever you want to put in there, but whatever that inflection point is, if you look at different points, you'll find the inflection point.
I think we solved this problem before in support, and it's like SLA achievement.
Yeah, same idea.
As a percentage.
Yep.
Thank you for
that. Make sense, Mick? Does that make sense?
Thank you very much for the feedback. We'll provide follow-up in the next review.
Awesome. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. Now I get to pick on Jonathan a little bit, but it's all goodness. So in a prior review, we talked about SOC 2 Type 2 report scheduled for November. We're sitting at the end of October. Are we still on track? And if not, do you need any executive support for that? Help with that?
Yeah, still on track. The audit kicks off. So the audit kicks off in November. The report date will be sometime in January. So the audit should take roughly 2 to 4 weeks. The report date is typically 30 days post-audit. So we're still on track. The audit kicks off in the next couple of weeks. We're super excited about the results. It'll be our first SOC 2 Type 2, right? The previous one was a SOC 2 Type 1. So customers are excited. We're excited. Sales is excited. It's a big win for GitLab. And sorry, to answer your question, no, at this time, we don't need any support, but once the audit kicks off, there will be a schedule. That schedule will include some interviews of, administrators, some managers, people that own different components of our infrastructure, or people that own different parts of different, security policies or processes. And so those will be mostly within security, mostly. Great. Those that we reach out to will pretty much just hit up infrastructure for the most part, maybe a little bit of development, but we'll certainly give Steve and give Christopher a heads up ahead of time.
Awesome. That'll be huge to have. So
yeah, it's going to be great.
Okay, next one on security. So this goes to, so first of all, I spent time with the trust and safety team. Thanks for that. That was really valuable discussion about where we are in terms of flagging abusive accounts and spam accounts and stuff like that. It was a really good meeting. And I think we can actually, I think there's a path for us to get that data to flow through into our metrics so that we can filter that out. My question was, it looks like you've actually taken some steps to quantify the first iteration of cost of abusive accounts. Love to see where that WIP is, or the work in progress, or I know another meeting we're supposed to use WIP, but where's the first step towards that we can review?
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for spending time with Jan and Charles on that. I was really excited to hear about your interest and your insights. You have a lot of expertise in this area as well from your past roles. So your input is super valuable. I just want to say that first. Secondly, this has been a KPI that I've been interested in adding to one of our top 5 primary indicators of health, security health, for probably the entire, all of Q3. So for like 3 months now, I've been interested in getting this put into the handbook. It's now part of the handbook. The initial indicators are there. And I've got 2 different links here for you. One is to the handbook with the KPI, which gives a disclaimer of, hey, this is what this currently includes, and this is what it does not yet include. So that way it's very clear what it is you're looking at. Then if you want to click into that, I then added the second link here, which is the current Sisense graphs, which show what we would categorize as cost of abuse on the categories that we're tracking, as well as the number of accounts. So we went a step further beyond quantifying the dollar valuation of, like this is costing us X amount of dollars per month, but also showing the number of accounts that are causing it.
No, this is fantastic. Actually, I'm just looking at the charts now. I'm going to spend some time with it. It's great.
Yeah, let me know if you need any help with that. Myself, Charles, Jan, any of us can go into further detail. And this is only going to improve. So with Q4, we have a number of updates and changes we expect to make to this to provide a more clear picture for you on the actual impact to GitLab.
Awesome. Next point on security is security in the context of helping sales. Seems like we're making some great progresses in terms of assets and really self-help for sales, so that we can hand stuff to customers so that you're not required to do meetings or reviews. That sounds promising. I guess 2 questions here. Are we quantifying either impact or the flip side, which is are we losing any deals because, hey, we got to the security review and we didn't pass, or anything like that?
Yeah, thanks, Craig. So yeah, I built a pretty good relationship with sales from the beginning, right? It's obviously we have a huge impact to sales, a huge impact cross-functionally with a lot of teams, right? We impact development, we impact product, we impact infrastructure. So from the beginning, I was invested into determining our impact to sales, how we can better serve the sales org, how we can better serve our customers, and increase growth, increase revenue, increase security in the mindset of our customers, right? The perspective of security. And so a couple of those things you mentioned here, right? We've created an assurance package that sales can give out proactively, which includes a ton of transparent information about who we are, what we do. And this is all from a security perspective, right? All these things self-serve. We also have engaged in security training with the sales org. And now for Q4, we're also looking into building a closer relationship with sales and partnering on sales calls proactively. So rather than wait for that call, wait for that customer to say, hey, well, now we need to go talk to security, set up another call in the future. Now we're trying to figure out ways to get a participant on a security representative on those calls ahead of time, so they can answer those questions in real time and reduce that time frame to close those deals, right? So to answer your question then, specifically around, are we tracking the deals lost? So sales has indicated that's a challenging question to answer. That has been asked. Deals are lost, I think, for a compilation of issues, right? There's a multiple reasons why deals may be lost. They don't have a clear indicator or a clear label, and this deal was lost specifically because we don't do X in security, right? That said, we've done the flip side, and we have we have tracked all the deals that we're impacting by touch, by method. So that includes we're answering questionnaires, we're getting on phone calls, we're sending out a SOC 2 report, we're answering support questions, we're doing all these things. And that has then led to us closing the deal. So you can see that from this link here. It's also a KPI is our impact on IACV. And ultimately, I hope that answers your question. And I really appreciate you asking these things, Craig.
Yeah, no, it does. And thanks. It's the first time I've seen that spreadsheet, so I'll look through that as well. So thanks for sharing that. It'd be good to look through.
Absolutely. Thanks.
I think Sid's got the next one.
Yeah, thanks. As Eric said, the impulse to present is strong, and I stopped blocking it and I started channeling it to videos beforehand. And I think we're going to make it maybe even a requirement for key meetings, but I'm not there yet. I want to float that idea. Eric?
Yeah, I thought we did pretty well on this when we just had the reminder at the top to not present. And then I took it out because it felt like it was just clutter. But then when I removed it, sure enough, we started sort of presenting. I think the two that I thought were sort of presenty were Christy and Christopher's OKR updates. We happen to have an how to achieve meeting later today, so those easily could have flown into that. But Christy's, you have a different opinion about your update. That was an action item.
I tried to add it to the agenda and then maybe I deleted it on accident.
I moved it up. You were sort of typing it down below, so I moved it up to where that question was asked. So
I got so confused for a second. I was just staring at it. Yeah.
I was waiting. I thought you were done. I was waiting for you done, and then I moved it to as an answer to the question. Sorry about that.
Understood. Yeah, no worries at all. Yeah, I mean, I was just looking at it as because there were a lot of questions about sus in the last ones as like an update, but I could have just had y'all ask me questions. I don't have a problem with that. So long story short, it doesn't seem like there were enough questions to warrant my own key review. And if you would rather me just wait for questions, I'll just wait for questions.
To be fair, Christy, I was going to ask you that question, and because you had put it in, I did have to ask the question. So thank you for doing that.
So I would say we should, just based on that, we should just go back to adding the reminder, hey, don't present, and we'll just make this pure discussion. The other question we could ask is, we already have separate support and infrastructure key reviews. Are we at the point where this meeting is busting at the seams and we should do engineering department level key reviews? If we do that, then everybody would be free to do their own thing. They could record a video, they could run their own meeting. And then that would allow me selfishly just to sort of slide into the sort of like role that Sid and Craig and Brian get to be, which is kind of being more critical and asking questions as opposed to being a broadcaster of the content.
I'm okay with this meeting so far, but it's,
as well.
At some point we're going to have PI meetings, which are performance, no, not key reviews. Anyway, I think I'm okay with this so far. Also because engineering is just well run in general. We don't need to, we ask questions, me and Craig, because it's our job, but I think it's super well run, and I love all the data that we're getting. I think everything is going well, and I'm not concerned about any specific part.
Yeah, as you see, the same themes, Eric, keep coming up, which is good. And by the way, the team is improving on those and having plans, and we're moving forward. So I actually like this. The breadth is good, so I'm happy with this as well.
Okay, cool. Well done.
I don't know who else got the reward, but when they realigned the group conversations, development has one a month now, even though we're on an 8-week cycle. So if we want to do KPI reports on development, I'd probably start rolling those probably into the group conversation, just as part of that monthly update.
Yeah, the whole idea is that you just recycle your key presentation and any videos you might have into that group conversation.
Yeah, well, that would be my request, is if I'm rolling one a month for group conversations, then do it there rather than also have a separate KPI meeting.
Well, is that a bug though? You going every 4 weeks, or is that because you're a quarter of the company?
My understanding was asked. That was by design. Somebody asked for it. I don't know who, but
Yeah, it's just like we saw a lot of duplicate work. We actually saw people put more time in preparing their GC than their key meeting, even though the key meeting is, in my view, more important. So wanted to get rid of that duplicate work. So now it's just recycle your key meeting presentation. And I hope that will improve the quality of the key meetings and reduce the time spent on both meeting, the prep that is needed for both meetings in aggregate. But if you want someone else to kind of be on that call instead of you, Christopher, we could experiment with that. Yeah, sometimes have you and sometimes have like your reports.
Yeah, I do a rotation with my reports. So I've been doing that a little bit up to this point. So that's kind of my idea. The other thing is the product team. What the problem was that we're way off topic of the key meeting. The problem with previously was the product teams each had their own. So I felt like they could be represented as part of the product. So that was a good partnership. Now I understand that those have been removed and product is just presenting a single focus. So that's why I'm going to probably bring it back into my fold for the group conversations. In other words, product was doing it by section. So they were part of that participatory. That's getting removed. So now I have a little bit more flexibility on my side to talk about the good things we're doing in development by section as well.
Cool.
An experiment.
Quick question on that, Sid. So if Christopher had one every 4 weeks, would it be okay if he didn't have a deck but had his metrics MR just posted in the group conversation agenda?
Exactly this content. The whole idea is that you don't have to create more content.
Awesome. Thank you.
By the way, I think this experiment that we do, that people click their own things, is not working. I think it's worth of someone's time to screenshot all the stuff and put them in a deck. So that's the bad news. But you can now reuse that deck for the group conversation. And I'm not forcing you to do it. You can also try first in the group conversation to just put this in. I find it more work for me than other key meetings. And I think your experience in the group conversation will be the same.
So an example of that, Sid, is like your number 11, the next one up. You handily put a link into the KPI, but the fact that we all have to click it, let the page load before we can see what you're seeing is...
It's just like normally I have it on another screen. I just click. Like I know how long it is. I know it's 60 clicks. It's exactly the right information. I can refer to a slide number without pasting the link in. And it's just the mindless clicking is the most important part. I want to mindlessly click. I want key meetings to be like Netflix, although you don't click on Netflix. But I hope less brain capacity used, please. Just show me the numbers instead of having me click around for the numbers. But I'm not making you do that now. Let's first try to recycle this for the group conversation. But I think you'll get the same feedback from people like, "Where's our slide deck?"
Okay. Should we go to number 11?
Yeah, and I want to call out that is just because engineering is the best. They have everything in the handbook. No one else have done that yet. So it's a luxury problem. And number 11, we can skip over it. Mac already answered. Thanks, Mac.